You sit down in the middle of a hand, cards already out, chips already moving. A few men leaning forward like they've been waiting on something you don't quite understand. No one looks up when you take your seat. Not really. Just quick glances, the kind that measure you without asking permission. Most games end with someone losing money. Out here, sometimes it ended with a chair kicked over and a man not getting back up again. You knew better than to sit down at that table. Problem is, so did everyone else in the room. But some of them knew what kind of table it was. The man across from you taps his fingers once against the wood, slow, thoughtful, like he's not thinking about the hand at all. Cards sit loose in his grip like they belong there. To your left, someone coughs into his sleeve, whiskey on his breath. Been here longer than he should have been. Might still win. Might not even remember if he does. The dealer is a man they call Lefty, though he uses both hands with a terrifying, fluid grace. He doesn't say much, doesn't have to. There's a rhythm already in place and you walked into it halfway through. You tell yourself it's just cards, 5-card stud maybe, a little draw poker or even faro, the kind of games you picked up sitting around a fire with men who weren't trying to take your last dollar so the same rules should still apply. Everyone tells themselves that. Thing is, a night like this doesn't start at the table. By the time you sit down, most of it's already been decided. It starts before sunrise. Morning comes earlier than you'd like. Sleep doesn't sit right when you've got something waiting on you. You roll out of bed with that dull weight in your shoulders, the kind that doesn't belong to one day's work. It's built up, days stacked on days. Could be cattle if you were lucky. Long drives, weeks at a time, dust settling into your clothes like it planned on staying. Nights colder than you expect. Pay that sounds fair until you realize how much of yourself you traded for it. Probably working for a man like Harlan Pruitt, paid $10 a week and talked like he was doing you a kindness. Men like that will smile while they're shorting you and expect to thank you for it. Could also be rail work, hammering iron into place while the ground trembles under passing trains. Men losing fingers, sometimes more, and the job not slowing down for it. Mining paid too, if you didn't mind the dark, or the kind of air that doesn't quite agree with your lungs and never plans to. Out in frontier towns, money never came easy, which made it all the easier to lose. After getting your wages, you carry the money the same way every time, folded careful, maybe tucked into a boot, maybe inside your coat. Feels heavier than it should. Over 6 weeks, you've bundled up $60, and $60 in the 1870s was not nothing. You could rent a room for a week, eat 2 square meals a day, and still have a lot left over. You could start something modest, or even put it toward a better life, if you were the sort to try. Instead, you walked into town. Places like Dodge City or Abilene where the dust never really settles. By the time you reach the saloon on the edge of town, the day's still hanging on to its last bit of light. Outside, everything makes sense. Work is work. Effort equals something you can hold. Inside, that balance shifts. The doors swing open and it's like stepping into a different kind of air. Thicker, warmer, smells like tobacco and something just shy of regret. Lantern light flickers across faces that don't quite settle. Shadows move more than they should. You pause for a second, just inside the door. Not long enough for anyone to notice. Long enough to feel it, though. That quiet thought. The one that says, maybe you turn around. You decide to brush it away. Boots carry you forward like they've made the decision already. There's laughter somewhere off to your right. Loud, but not loose. Measured, like it's part of the game, too. A piano plays something that used to be cheerful, but it still pulls you in. You head for the tables, same as you always do. By the time you sit down, you're already behind. Not in chips, not yet. More in what you don't see. There's men here who treat this like a job, not the kind you clock into, the kind that never quite lets you leave. They sit different, talk less, watch more, hands steady, eyes moving. They don't look at their cards as much as they look at you. Then there's the others, the ones passing through, drinking heavier than they should, betting louder than they can afford. You fall somewhere in between. Most folks do, at least the first few times. Some men made their living at these tables. Others paid for it. Nobody says it out loud. Doesn't need saying. You start with small bets, sensible ones. Ease yourself in. Feel the table out like you've heard you're supposed to. Cards come, cards go. Nothing unusual. At least, nothing you can point to. There's a moment, maybe an hour in, where something shifts. Nothing big, nothing you could point to, just a feeling sitting there. The deck moves a little too smooth. A hand that should have gone one way doesn't. You shake it off. Easier to do than admit what you're starting to suspect. Ain't no man in a hurry to accept he's sitting in a crooked game. And you've been wrong before. Everyone has. But it happens again. And then again. You start watching closer. Not just your cards, everything else. The dealer's hands. The way the man across from you places his bets. The timing of it all. It's subtle. Always is. No grand reveals. No dramatic tells. Just small things stacking up. Marked cards. The kind you don't notice unless someone's already shown you how. A second deal slipping through so clean you'd swear you imagined it. Two men at the table who never lose on the same hand and never seem too interested in taking each other's money. Funny how that works out. Takes you a while, but it catches up to you. You ain't playing the same game as the rest of them. The game you probably knew, draw poker, 5-card stud, whatever you'd learned around campfires on the trail, that game had rules. The game that you're playing in this room has different rules, and nobody gave you the sheet. And the worst part is realizing that a little too late. That's the part that doesn't make it into most accounts of frontier gambling. Cheating was not the exception, but part of the game in rooms like this. Not every hand was fixed, but enough were to keep it on your mind. Still, you let it slide and keep playing. Figure maybe your luck runs stronger than whatever's leaning against you. Losses don't come all at once, not at first. A bad hand here, a close call there, enough to keep you leaning forward instead of walking away. You tell yourself it'll turn, that you just need one good run to even things out. Small losses feel temporary, but winning feels inevitable. That's how it keeps you sitting there. Your stack shrinks, not fast enough to scare you, just steady enough that you notice and ignore it. You start betting a little more, nothing reckless, just enough to make up ground, then a little more than that. Hands blur together, time stretches. The room gets quieter somehow, even though it isn't. You stop counting how long you've been there, probably better that way. You stop thinking about where the money came from. You stop thinking about anything outside the table. All that matters is the next hand. Always the next one. After a while, someone says something they probably shouldn't. Not loud, just enough. Could be you. Could be the man 2 seats down. Doesn't matter. A question about a deal. A glance held a second too long. Something small that shouldn't matter, but it always does in a room like this. The room tightens, goes still. Not quiet, just still. It's hard to explain if you haven't felt it. Like the air pulls in closer, like every sound gets sharper. Nobody jumps in, nobody plays peacemaker. You'll notice folks start watching hands instead of faces, because this part, it's expected. After a while, it stops being about the cards. Folks start waiting on something else. Just a matter of who says it first and how far it goes when they do. Out here, Things like that don't stretch on too long. It happens quick. A chair shifts. A hand moves where it shouldn't. Gunfire doesn't sound like it does in stories. Not dramatic, not drawn out, just loud, sudden, final. The kind of sound that doesn't echo as long as you'd think. For a moment, nobody moves. Then everything does. Chairs scrape. Someone swears under their breath. Another man drags a body out like it's part of closing duties. Ain't the first time he's done it, won't be the last. The dealer gathers the cards. He doesn't rush it, doesn't look shaken either, just keeps dealing, because the game doesn't stop, not for long. By the time night settles in, you're still sitting there. Or maybe you've stepped outside for air that doesn't quite help. Your money's gone, or close enough to it. Maybe you held on to a few bills. Maybe you didn't. Doesn't feel like much either way. There's a numbness that settles in. It ain't dramatic, not like the stories, just quiet. You think about the morning, about the work it took to earn what you brought in. Feels like it happened to someone else. Might as well have. You replay hands in your head, the ones that almost turned, the ones that didn't make sense. Doesn't change anything, never does. Funny thing about it, you don't even feel angry, just tired. You step back into the street. Night air's cooler, cleaner, doesn't carry the same weight. A few others drift out behind you. No one talks much. There's an understanding that doesn't need words. Everyone in that room knew what it was. Some just figured it out sooner than others. By the time you do, there ain't much left to carry. You walk a little slower than you did on the way in. Boots heavier now. Not from what you're carrying, more from what you ain't. And somehow, you made it through. You didn't get shot. You didn't win. You just walked away. Back to the same work waiting on you in the morning. Same long hours. Same kind of pay just to earn money that won't stay yours for long. There's a rhythm to it. Work, table, loss. Over and over. Like the whole thing's built that way. Give it a little time, someone'll tell it different. Couple drinks in, the rough parts get shaved off. The loss doesn't sound quite so heavy anymore. Turns into one of those legends of the felt folks pass around like it was anything but a loss. But sitting there in that chair, watching it unfold in real time, there's not much legend to it. Just men, money, and the quiet understanding that you weren't walking out with both your money and yourself. Nothing left to do but head on back. You make it to your bed, lay down with that same weight on your shoulders. Sleep comes easier now. Things still ain't settled, but there's just nothing left to think on. And if you were lucky, you'd wake up the next morning and do it all again. Back to the same work, same long days, just to earn it all over again. $60, 6 weeks, 1 night. The felt remembers. The man forgets. And the dealer's hands are already moving. Plenty more stories drift through places like that, some louder than others. If you've got the patience, pull up a chair. The felt's still warm.